Welcome to the Reorganization meeting for January 9th, 2018. We now rise for a salute to the flag and a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will now have a roll call. Ms. Anderson?
Here.
Mr. Delapietro?
Here.
Mr. Harris?
Here.
Mr. Molnar?
Here.
Mr. Sedana?
Here.
Mr. Tamburello?
Here.
Mr. Treebwasser?
Here.
Mr. Velez?
Here.
Ms. Zullo?
Here.
I will now read the Open Public Meetings Law. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provision of this Act, the Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted as follows. January 5th, 2017, faxed to the Home News Tribune and the Star Ledger, and also January 4th, 2018, the Municipal Clerk's Office, posted in Avenel Middle School and the Board of Education Administration Building. The results of the November 7th, 2017 school board election: Marie Anderson, 8,972, Frank Delapietro, 5,779, and Brian Molnar, 9,037. We will now administer the oath to the new board members, starting with Ms. Anderson. Solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey, and that you will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and to the governments established in the United States and this state under the authority of the people, so help you God.
I do.
Do you, Marie Anderson, solemnly swear that you possess the qualifications prescribed by law for the office of member of the Board of Education, and that you are not disqualified as a voter pursuant to RS 19-4-1, nor disqualified due to conviction of a crime or offense listed in NJS 18A-12-1, and that you will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all duties of that office according to the best of your ability, so help you God.
I do. Thank you. Delapietro, solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey, and that you will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and to the governments established in the United States and this state under the authority of the people, so help you God.
I will.
Do you, Frank Delapietro, solemnly swear that you possess the qualifications prescribed by law for the office of member of the Board of Education, and that you are not disqualified as a voter pursuant to RS 19-4-1, or disqualified due to conviction of a crime or offense listed in NJS 18A-12-1, and that you will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all the duties of that office according to the best of your ability, so help you God.
I will.
Brian Molnar, solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey, and that you will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and to the governments established in the United States and this state
under the authority of the people, so help you God?
I do.
Do you, Brian Molnar, solemnly swear that you possess the qualifications prescribed by law for the office of a member of a Board of Education, and that you are not disqualified as a voter pursuant to RS 19-4-1, or disqualified due to conviction of a crime or offense listed in NJS 18A12-1, and that you will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all the duties of that office according to the best of your ability, so help you God?
I do.
Do I have a nomination for the office of President of the Woodbridge Township Board of Education for the 2018 term?
Mr. Wolferman,
Yes, Mr. Tamburello?
if I may, I have had the absolute honor to have been selected as board president twice for this school district, and during my time on the board. I've also had the pleasure in the past to nominate fellow board members for the role of board president of Woodbridge Township School District in the past. For instance, most recently, Dan Harris in 2017. I think I can speak for the board when I say, Dan, with the support of the board and certainly the administration, that you had a very successful term as president of Woodbridge Township School District. And I would like to take this opportunity first to congratulate you, sir, on a job well done 2017. This evening, I also have the pleasure to nominate another long-term board member, another long-time township resident, someone who knows this district inside and out, a tremendous resource on budget issues, an authority on transportation, contracts, food services, and many, many other topics. Someone who understands the commitment needed to lead, someone who can certainly appreciate the everyday challenges and opportunities of running a district this large. And finally, I nominate a person who I think can handle this role in certainly a cooperative and collaborative manner. So this evening, ladies and gentlemen, it is my proud pleasure to nominate Jonathan Treebwasser for President of Woodbridge Township School District for 2018.
Thank you, Mr. Tamburello. Do I have a second?
I would like to second that motion. Jonathan, I've known for a while, and I'm sure he's a very qualified candidate, and he'll do a fantastic job. And thank you for your service. John, Dan, you've done a wonderful service during the year, and I appreciate your service too.
Thank you, Mr. Velez. Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, I have a nomination by Mr. Tamburello, seconded by Mr. Velez. And we'll now have, all in favor?
Aye.
Now we'll have a roll call. Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Do we have a motion to close nominations?
So motion.
Thank you, Mr. Molnar. Seconded?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Zullo. All those in favor?
Aye.
Nominations are now closed. Roll call on Mr. Treebwasser becoming president. Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Della Pietro?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Molnar?
Yes.
Mr. Sedana?
Yes.
Mr. Tamburello?
Yes.
Mr. Treebwasser?
Yes.
Mr. Velez?
Yes.
Ms. Zullo?
Yes.
I would now like to turn the meeting over to our new board president, Mr. Treebwasser.
Thank you all very much. I hope that I live up to all of your expectations, and I hope that I can continue to maintain the high standards that the Board of Education has, and I hope my wife has the patience to deal with me over the next year. With that being said, I would like to entertain any nominations for Vice President.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
I
Mr.
would like to
Molnar.
enter the name into nomination for Vice President Frank Della Pietro. Mr. Della Pietro has been a running mate of mine for the last 2 times. Mr. Della Pietro being a tireless servant for the children and residents of this school district, but also in his career as a firefighter. If anybody symbolizes a true public servant, it is Mr. Della Pietro, and it gives me great honor to nominate my friend for the vice president.
I have a nomination by Mr. Molnar. Do I have a second?
Second.
Does any board member have any other nominations for the position of vice president? Will someone make a motion, please, to close the nominations?
So motion?
I have a motion by Mr. Molnar. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Harris. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Congratulations, Mr. Della Pietro.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Roll call, Mr. Wolferman?
Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Della Pietro?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Molnar,
Yes.
Mr. Sedana?
Yes.
Mr. Tamburello?
Yes.
Mr. Velez?
Yes.
Ms. Zullo?
Yes.
Mr. Treebwasser?
Yes. Mr. Della Pietro, will you please read the closed session statement?
Thank you, Mr. President. In compliance with the Sunshine Law, the board must go into closed session in order to discuss subjects exempted from the public portion of our meeting. The discussions to be held in closed session will be regarding personnel matters. Any information regarding the closed session discussion will be released to the public when the reasons for discussing these matters in closed session no longer exist.
I have a motion by Mr. Della Pietro. Do I have a second?
Second?
Second by Mr. Molnar. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll be back shortly. Can I have a motion to reconvene the meeting, please?
So motion?
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Policy and Planning, Ms. Anderson?
Thank you, Mr. President. The Policy and Planning Committee, on recommendation of the superintendent, presents the following. Tonight, I will be moving 8 items. May the record reflect that the date in item 8 be changed to January 9th. I move for the adoption of the foregoing.
I have a motion by Ms. Anderson. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Sedana. Roll call, Mr. Secretary?
Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Della Pietro?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Molnar,
Yes.
Mr. Sedana?
Yes.
Mr. Tamburello?
Yes.
Mr. Velez?
Yes.
Ms. Zullo?
Yes.
Mr. Treebwasser?
Yes. Personnel, Mr. Molnar.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Personnel Committee, on the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools and the Director of Personnel Services, presents the following. Tonight, I will be moving 3 items.
I have a motion by Mr. Molnar. Do I have a second?
Second.
Are there any comments or questions from the board? Any comments or questions from the public?
David Pinkowitz, Island, is there a personnel agenda that the public can view?
Mr. Secretary, roll call, please.
Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Della Pietro?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Molnar,
Yes.
Mr. Sedana?
Yes.
Mr. Velez?
Yes.
Ms. Zullo?
On item number 1, I will be abstaining, yes on the other 2 items.
Mr. Tamburello?
Yes.
Mr. Treebwasser?
Yes. In keeping with our past practice, we will open this portion of the meeting to statements from the public. If you wish to say something, please come to the microphone, provide your name, address for the record, and please limit your comments to no more than 5 minutes in accordance with Regulation 1100D.
All right, David Pinkowitz, Island. I had a question regarding the varsity status, varsity letters for organizations. I was told to talk in December. I was unable to get to the meeting in December. Has there been an update on other interscholastic clubs and activities getting varsity letters? I know there was a committee meeting to determine what the rules should be.
Dr. Zaga?
Yes, Mr. President, Mr. Pinkowitz, we have regulation updates to present to the Policy and Planning Committee for this coming meeting. We should have something to present to the public for that.
Okay. Then also, I just had a quick question, because on the meeting schedule, the July 18th meeting is scheduled for a Wednesday. Is there a specific reason that can be shared why that's not following the normal pattern of Thursday meetings?
Yes, Mr. Pinklewitz, there is.
Would you please share it?
Oh, yes, sir. Be happy to. The Snapple Bowl is Thursday, and we wanted to make sure that everybody had no conflicts and didn't have to choose between coming to the Board of Education meeting and going to the Snapple Bowl.
Okay. Then one item, I just wanted to, I'm sure the board, some members of the board may have read about it in the news. I just wanted to make sure the district is looking into it. There were the recent Meltdown and Spectre vulnerabilities. These are vulnerabilities for almost every computer, every desktop computer, certainly and server computer just about, that uses Intel chips. And the Spectre was involving not just that, but mobile devices, many of which are getting updates. Some have been released already, and there'll probably be more updates coming in the future. Is the district, and specifically, obviously, the tech department of the district, looking into getting this mitigated in the district's computers?
Dr. Zaga?
Mr. President, Mr. Pinklewitz, yes, we have a wonderful tech team, and we actually have a tech team meeting tomorrow, and I'll be sure to bring it up, and I'm sure if it's been in the news, I'm sure they're aware. But thank you for bringing it to our attention.
Okay, and then I just had one question on an item in the first reading was in the December agenda for electronic communication for board meetings. So my question is, and this is probably something the attorney would have to answer more than anyone else, but if he wants to. I understand, I looked at the New Jersey School Boards Association website about phone communications during meetings, and apparently the law, there were a couple cases that went one on each way, and an attorney general opinion that he said wouldn't be binding on school districts anyway. Is there a reason that we're adding the ability for board members to communicate electronically? And second, are we concerned that there isn't really clear guidance that it's even permitted? Or is there? Maybe there's new guidance that I'm not aware of.
Mr. Pinklewitz, it's certainly something that we'll bring up and discuss in our committees, and we'll certainly review with the board attorney, but at this point, I don't think I can comment on that.
Okay. And then just one comment on it. If we are doing it, I don't feel strongly about it one way or the other. I think given the current level of technology, it would be nice if it were video hookup so we could actually see and verify that the board member is paying attention to the meeting, involved in the meeting. Back when these cases were decided, there was, of course, no easy way to do that. They were done by phone, and those were both reorganization meetings. This meeting, effectively, where those happen. But if we are going to do it, and there will be somebody taking advantage of it, it would be nice if we had a video hookup where the public could see the board member, perhaps you could even go the other way, let the board member see the meeting, but allow the public to see and verify the participation of the individual, so we don't have to recognize their voice or anything of the sort. And then one last comment, it's just a minor quibble of what was just passed in policy and planning. The adoption of Robert's Rules of Order. Typically, Robert's Rules of Order refers to itself as Robert's Rules of Order newly revised, and says that when you adopt it, you should say to use the current edition of Robert's Rules of Order newly revised. Just a comment, just so there's no ambiguity, and so that if the edition ever changes, right now it's the 11th edition, but if it goes to a 12th someday, that would be clear in whatever the board adopts. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Pinklewitz. Are there any other comments or questions from the public?
Mr. Treeboss?
Yes, sir, Mr.
I
Harris.
just wanted to clarify one item. With the Snapple Bowl, it's being held at Woodbridge High School this particular year. It rotates between counties, not necessarily Woodbridge and some town in Union County. Happens to be in Woodbridge this year. And it was my suggestion that in the interest of the board members here, members of the public, the administration, that moving the board meeting would help accommodate attendance at that it's not just a football game, it's a fundraiser for, I believe, 2 charities. So it's a well worthwhile program. I know Ms. Andrews is very familiar with that as well. So, and thank you, Mr. Treeboss, for taking that recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Are there any other comments from the board? Seeing none, Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So motion?
Motion by Mr. Molnar, seconded by Mr. Delapietro. All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.